Hello everyone, and welcome to the next Key to Theosophy book study. We are already on page 100. We have a big one today. This is almost like 9 pages, so lots of exciting things happening here at Living Theosophy. I want to say thank you to the Theosophical Society headquarters in London. This last week we were invited up. I say we, it's just me, this channel that I breathe life into as a former radio and television broadcaster. It is my goal to be able to use my skills to help share these teachings on the things that we have with us, no longer going to the libraries of the elite, but what do you have with you? What does everybody have with them? Almost. In the Western world, most people have in their pockets a black mirror, the phone, okay? I want to get this out on the internet because I believe these teachings have changed my life in such a monumental way that I wish to be of service to all of humanity and get them out there on the internet. So for the last 7 years or so, 5, 6, 7 years, I've been doing these theosophical shorts, reading these texts and doing the book studies just to get them out there. Recently, I was asked to collaborate with the Theosophical Society out of London at their headquarters. These beautiful, compassionate, ethical souls have asked if we could work together, and I am humbled and grateful to say, yes, of course we can. So hopefully we will have free texts to give away. They mentioned they have some in their library that I can give you free copies of these. I'll find out more and include information in the link down below. If you don't want to wait for your hard copy, you can get a PDF copy. It is in the link down below. And we are reading as we go along. If you wish to help out this channel, you're welcome to. You can purchase the audiobooks that I voiced at a much lower cost than they are on the global retail outlets. They set the cost on Apple and Audible and things like that. But on the Living Theosophy bookshop, and in the bookshop, you can get them for a much lower cost, and it all goes back into the publishing and the lighting and the cameras and the bandwidth and the website and all that stuff here. So we are going to move forward into it gets more meaty. Although I'm vegan, it gets more meaty. And we are on page again, going to page 101, okay, in your book. Key to Theosophy. Let us begin before I babble on too long. If you'd like to support the channel, please subscribe. Please click the purple picture. It's a very important picture, that is. We'll talk about that one day. And if you click the notification button, share these teachings if you can. They belong to all and solely to none. I am not a teacher. You're not following me. I'm just a speaker. The spotlight here remains on Theosophy. Theosophy is the star on this channel and always will be. These teachings are ancient, okay? Wasn't just written down in the late 19th century. These are ancient. They belong to all and solely to none. So let's get started. Here we go. Section 7, on the various post-mortem states, the physical and the spiritual man. Inquirer, I'm glad to hear that you believe in the immortality of the soul. Theosophist, not of the soul, but of the divine spirit, or rather in the immortality of the re-incarnating ego. Inquirer, what is the difference? Theosophist, a very great one in our philosophy. But this is too abstruse, which means difficult to understand, and difficult a question to touch lightly upon, so we shall have to analyze them separately, and then in conjunction. We may begin with spirit. We say that the spirit, the Father in secret of Jesus, or Atman, is no individual property of any man, but is the divine essence which has no body, no form, which is imponderable, invisible, and indivisible, that which does not exist, but it is, as the Buddhists say of Nirvana. It only overshadows the mortal, that which enters into him and pervades the whole body, being only its omnipresent rays or light radiated through Buddhi, its vehicle and direct emanation. This is the secret meaning of the assertions of almost all of the ancient philosophers when they said that the rational part of man's soul, now there's a note here, in its generic sense, the word rational means something emanating from the eternal wisdom. It never entered wholly into the man, but only overshadowed him more or less through the irrational spiritual soul, or Buddhi. Another note here, irrational in the sense that as a pure emanation of the universal mind, it can have no individual reason of its own on this plane of matter. But like the moon, who borrows her light from the sun and her life from the earth, so Buddhi is receiving its light of wisdom from Atman, gets its rational qualities from manas per se. As something homogeneous, it is devoid of attributes. Inquirer, I labored under the impression that the animal soul alone was irrational, not the divine. Theosophist, you have to learn that the difference between that which is negatively or passively irrational, because undifferentiated, meaning not different, and that which is irrational because too active and positive. Man is a correlation of spiritual powers as well as a correlation of chemical and physical forces brought into function by what we call principles. Inquirer, I have read a good deal upon this subject, and it seems to me that the notions of the older philosophers differed a great deal from those of the medieval Kabbalists, though they do agree in some particulars. Theosophist, the most substantial difference between them and us is this: while we believe with the Neoplatonists and the Eastern teachings that the spirit, Atman, never descends hypostatically. Now, hypostasis means core or the essence, the underlying state or underlying substance, and is the fundamental reality that supports all else. So it never descends hypostatically into the living man, but only showers more or less its radiance on the inner man, the psychic and spiritual compound of the astral principles. The Kabbalists maintain that the human spirit, detaching itself from the ocean of light and universal spirit, enters man's soul, where it remains throughout life, imprisoned in the astral capsule. All Christian Kabbalists still maintain the same, as they are unable to break quite loose from their anthropomorphic and biblical doctrines. Inquirer, and what do you say? Theosophist, we say that we only allow the presence of the radiation of spirit, or Atman, in the astral capsule. And so far only as that spiritual radiancy is concerned, we say that man and soul have to conquer their immortality by ascending towards the unity which, if successful, they will be finally linked into, and which they are finally, so to speak, absorbed. The individualization of man after death depends on the spirit, not on his soul and body. Although the word personality, in the sense in which it is usually understood, is an absurdity if applied literally to our immortal essence. Still, the latter is, as our individual ego, a distinct entity, immortal and eternal, per se. It is only in the case of black magicians or criminals beyond redemption, criminals who have been such during a long series of lives, that the shining thread which links the spirit to the personal soul from the moment of the birth of the child is violently snapped, and the disembodied entity becomes divorced from the personal soul, the latter being annihilated without leaving the smallest impression of itself on the former. If that union between the lower or personal manas and the individual reincarnating ego has not been effected during life, then the former is left to share the fate of the lower animals, to gradually dissolve into ether and to have its personality annihilated. But even then, the ego remains a distinct being. It, the spiritual ego, only loses one devashanic state. After that special, and in that case, useless life, as that idealized personality, and it is reincarnated after enjoying for a short time its freedom as a planetary spirit, almost immediately. Inquirer, it is stated in Isis Unveiled that such planetary spirits or angels, or the gods of the pagans, or the archangels of the Christians, will never be men on our planet. Theosophist, quite right. Not such, but some classes of higher planetary spirits. They will never be men on this planet because they are liberated spirits from a previous earlier world, and as such they cannot re-become men on this one. Yet all these will live again in the next and far higher Maha Manvantara, after this great age, and Brahma Pralaya, which is a little period of 16 figures or so, is over. For you must have heard, of course, that Eastern philosophy teaches us that mankind consists of such spirits imprisoned in human bodies. The difference between animals and men is this: the former are ensouled by the principles potentially, and the latter actually. Vide Secret Doctrine, Volume 2 in the stanzas. Do you understand now the difference? Inquirer, yes. But this specialization has been in all the ages the stumbling block of metaphysicians. Theosophist, it was. The whole esotericism of the Buddhistic philosophy is based on this mysterious teaching, understood by so few persons, and so totally misrepresented by many of the most learned of the modern scholars. Even metaphysicians are too inclined to confound, which means confuse, the effect with the cause. An ego who has won his immortal life as spirit will remain the same inner self throughout all his rebirths on earth. But this does not imply necessarily that he must either remain Mr. Smith or Mr. Brown as he was on earth or lose his individuality. Therefore, the astral soul and the terrestrial body of man may, in the dark hereafter, be absorbed into the cosmical ocean of sublimated, which means purified elements, and cease to feel his last personal ego if it did not deserve to soar higher, and the divine ego still remain the same unchanged entity, though this terrestrial experience of his emanation may be totally obliterated at the instant of separation from the unworthy vehicle. Inquirer. If the spirit or the divine portion of the soul is pre-existent as a distinct being from all eternity, as Origen, an early Christian scholar and theologian, Synesius, a Neoplatonic philosopher, and other semi-Christians and semi-Platonic philosophers taught, and if it is the same and nothing more than the metaphysically objective soul, how can it be otherwise than eternal? And what matters in it? In such a case, whether man leads a pure life or an animal, if, do whatever he may, he can never lose his individuality? It's a good question. Theosophist. This doctrine, as you have stated it, is just as pernicious, which means harmful, in its consequence as that of vicarious atonement. Had the latter dogma, in company with the false idea that we are all immortal, have been demonstrated to the world in its true light, humanity would have been bettered by its propagation. Means the spreading of. Let me repeat to you again. Pythagoras, Plato, Timaeus of Locris, and the old Alexandrian school derived the soul of man, or his higher principles and attributes, from the universal world soul, the latter being, according to their teachings, ether, pure air or sky, pater Zeus, the father of the sky. Therefore, neither of these principles can be unalloyed essence of the Pythagorean monas or our Atman Buddhi, because the anima mundi, the world soul, the anima mundi, is but the effect, the subjective emanation, or rather radiation of the former. Both the human spirit or the individuality, the re-incarnating spiritual ego, and Buddhi, the spiritual soul, are pre-existent. But while the former exists as a distinct entity and individualization, the soul exists as pre-existing breath, an unscient portion of intelligent whole. Both were originally formed from the eternal ocean of light, but as the fire philosophers and the medieval theosophists expressed it, there is a visible as well as invisible spirit in fire. They made a difference between the anima bruta, the savage soul, and the anima divina. Empedocles, who's a Greek pre-Socratic philosopher, firmly believed that all men and animals possess two souls. And in Aristotle, we find that he calls the one the reasoning soul, nous, and the other the animal soul, psyche. According to these philosophers, the reasoning soul comes from within, the universal soul, and the other from without. Inquirer. Would you call the soul, i.e. the human thinking soul, or what you call the ego, matter? Theosophist. Not matter, but substance. Assuredly, substance. Nor would the word matter, if prefixed with the adjective primordial, be a word to avoid. That matter, we say, is co-eternal with spirit, and is not our visible, tangible, and divisible matter, but its extreme sublimation, which means transformation. Pure spirit is but one remove from the no spirit, or the absolute all. Unless you admit that man was evolved out of this primordial spirit matter and represents a regular progressive scale of principles from meta-spirit down to the grossest matter, how can we ever come to regard the inner man as immortal and, at the same time, a spiritual entity and a mortal man? Inquirer. Then why should you not believe in God as such an entity? Theosophist, because that which is infinite and unconditioned can have no form and cannot be a being, not in any Eastern philosophy worthy of the name at any rate. An entity is immortal, but is so only in its ultimate essence, not in its individual form. When at the last point of its cycle, it is absorbed into its primordial nature and it becomes spirit, when it loses its name of entity. Its immortality as a form is limited only to its life cycle, or the Maha Manvantara, after which it is one and identical with the universal spirit, and no longer a separate entity. As to the personal soul, by which we mean the spark of consciousness that preserves in the spiritual ego the idea of the personal I of the last incarnation, this lasts as a separate, distinct recollection only throughout the Devashanic period, after which time it is added to the series of other innumerable incarnations of the ego, like the remembrance in our memory of one of a series of days at the end of a year. Will you bind the infinitude you claim for your God to finite conditions? That alone which is indissolubly, which means imperishable or indestructible, cemented by Atma, i.e. Buddhi manas, is immortal. The soul of man, i.e. the personality per se, is neither immortal, eternal, nor divine, says the Zohar, volume 3, page 616. The soul, when sent to this earth, puts on an earthly garment to preserve herself here. So she receives above a shining garment in order to be able to look without injury into the mirror whose light proceeds from the Lord of Light, Sun Moon. Moreover, the Zohar teaches that the soul cannot reach the abode of bliss unless she has received the holy kiss, or the reunion of the soul with the substance from which she emanated, spirit. All souls are dual, and while the latter is feminine, it's a feminine principle, the spirit is a masculine principle. While imprisoned in body, man is a trinity, unless his pollution is such as to cause his divorce from the spirit. Woe to the soul, which prefers to her divine husband spirit the earthly wedlock with her terrestrial body, records the text called the Book of Keys, a hermetic work. Woe indeed, for nothing will remain of that personality to be recorded on the imperishable tablets of the ego's memory. Inquirer, how can that which, if not breathed by God into man, yet is, on your own confession, an identical substance with the divine, fail to be immortal? Theosophist. Every atom and speck of matter, not of substance only, is imperishable in its essence, but not in its individual consciousness. Immortality is but one's unbroken consciousness, and the personal consciousness can hardly last longer than the personality itself, can it? And such consciousness, as I already told you, survives only throughout Devashan, after which it is absorbed first in the individual and then in the universal consciousness. Better inquire of your theologians how it is that they have so sorely jumbled up the Jewish scriptures. Read the Bible if you would have good proof that the writers of the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Bible, and Genesis especially, never regarded nephesh, that which God breathes into Adam, Genesis chapter 2, as the immortal soul. Here are some instances. And God created every nephesh, life that moveth, Genesis 1:21, meaning animals, and Genesis 2:7 it is said, and man became a nephesh, living soul, which shows that the word nephesh was indifferently applied to immortal man and mortal beast. And surely your blood of your nepheshism, lives, will I require at the hand of every beast will I require it, and at the hand of man, Genesis 9:5. Escape for nephesh, escape for thy life, it is translated. Genesis 19:17. Let us not kill him, reads the English version. Genesis 37:21. Let us not kill his nephesh is the Hebrew text. Nephesh for nephesh, says Leviticus 17:8. He that killeth any man shall surely be put to death. Literally, he that smiteth the nephesh of a man, Leviticus 24:17, and from verse 18 following it, it reads, and he that killeth a beast, nephesh, shall make it good, beast for beast, whereas the original text has it nephesh for nephesh. How could man kill that which is immortal? And this explains also why the Sadducees, which is a Jewish sect at the time of Christ, denied life after death. They denied the immortality of the soul, as it also affords another proof that very probably the Mosaic Jews, the uninitiated at any rate, never believed in the soul's survival at all. Whew, that's a big one with the teleprompter. That is the beginning of Section 7. And if you'd like a copy of the book, Please click the link below for a free PDF. More information to come on free copies of The Key to Theosophy. Thank you to the Theosophical headquarters out of London. It is an honor to be working on your team with you as a fellow student, a dedicated human being on this planet to help ease the unnecessary suffering of all beings on our planet. The teachings of Theosophy are compassion, love, unconditional love, understanding, empathy, unity. This is what Theosophy is. It is the foundation of all of the world's religions, sciences, and philosophies. And people right now are hungry for this. Nature is the true church. The pagans were close. There's always more to the story. There's even more to the story. Every day I realize there's more to the story, and how very little I know. But nature is the true church. You are the temple. It is not about me. It is about these teachings and the application that you make of them. The practice that you use in your daily life, whether it be with your spouse, with your bank account, with your coworkers, your friends, your enemies. This is where Theosophy is applied in every second of every day. Theosophy can be used. This is the textbook for humanity, all right? These teachings belong to everyone and solely to none. The platform from which the teachings are to be taught from are meant for the teachings, not the teacher. And I am no teacher, I'm simply a student. And I'm a voice. And whoa, after that, I'm gonna need a little cup of tea with you. Hang on one second. It's ice cold. That's a long chapter. Okay. If you want to support the channel, please feel free to click this beautiful purple picture. We'll talk about that one day. I'll tell you the story of that photo. It's a very, very interesting photo, but click that link. That is the Living Theosophy logo. And there you can find the website, which I'm going to be linking. I haven't done it as of the recording of this today on the 20-something of November 19. But I will be linking with the Theosophical Society out of London, the headquarters with Damon and everybody up there. Oh, so much love for all of you. Elizabeth, all of you, thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be able to work with you. So we will be working together in collaboration to carry these teachings out into the world where everybody has access on the internet, no longer in exclusive libraries for people who felt that they were exclusive. It's for everyone. Belongs to all and solely to none. Click the link, please subscribe, hit the notification button. If you'd like to purchase the audiobooks, they're here for a much lower cost than they are on the bigger platforms because this helps support this channel. This is how I've given up everything to do this, to carry these lessons out into the world, trusting that whatever is needed will be provided. So if you'd like to support the channel, you're welcome to. Please click the link down below. And I'll put some information in the description as well. Key to Theosophy, we've done it. Now we're on page 110, and next up is on eternal reward and punishment, and on Nirvana. That's next time on the Key to Theosophy. Stick around, we'll be doing live readings of the Voice of the Silence. We've finished up the Light on the Path book studies. They're all here on this channel. You can pick up anywhere you wish. I love you very much, and I'll see you soon.